first thing y'all are gonna have to do is excuse the mess in the shop. And the second thing you're gonna have to do is check out the sweet 1973 Schuster Tahiti. Now, from what I can tell, this is the Torino model. It's an 18-foot. The Torino is basically the bubble right here. That's a feature of the Torino. It has a 455 Oldsmobile. It has a bay jet, which is kind of like a Berkeley clone from what I read. That was good. Some parts interchange, some parts don't. So at some point somebody has redone the interior and some of the other things on this boat. But to start off with, I just went through the motor and I did a leak down test and a compression test to see, make sure that everything was skookum. Put some new spark plugs, put in a marine carburetor with spacer, flame arrestor, HEI distributor, already on there when I bought it. A new gasket and some hardware on the snail. Also back there is a new connector hose. The other one was all bent and mashed up. Ooh, flashlight's still on. Whenever you're working on these, if you're doing a lot of stuff to the motor, you want to go ahead and unhook that jet pump coupling, because you don't want to be spinning the jet pump dry, because there's a cutlass bearing that's basically a grooved rubber bearing, and it needs water to be lubricated. Then let's see, after I got the engine, well, okay, I changed the oil, which is kind of tricky in here. So what I did is I unhooked the oil pressure sending unit and put a tube into a bucket, and then pulled the distributor, and I used a drill motor and a 5/16 drill, and I used the engine oil pump to pump out about 8 quarts of oil. So changed the oil, changed the filter, which wasn't too bad. You just had to stick your arm in this way to get to it. So once I did that, I got the engine running, I hose tested it, made sure all the block plugs were in, everything looked good. I had to make a new fuel line because the other one was crappy rubber. New fuel filter. Please ignore all that. It's going to get tidied up eventually. So then I turned my attention to the electrics. All the wiring was a complete mess, so I put in new switches because the other ones were broke for my nav lights, my courtesy lights, and my bilge. I also installed a fuse block. None of these were fused, so now I have a fuse block. All the gauges work. I don't know about the speedometer. We'll see. All the gauges work, stereo doesn't work, and I unhooked the cigarette lighter because you don't really need it. I buffed the gel coat, and it came out pretty good. Pretty good so far. Emptied out all the old gas in the tank, put in 5 gallons of fresh new gas. Went through and lubricated everything. Everything was dry, so I had to lubricate everything. The steering rack, all the linkages, things like that, and a lot of stuff needed adjustment. So the forward reverse was broken, and it was all stiff and out of adjustment, so I had to do some fabrication on that to get it going. The seats were not even bolted down. They were just kind of floppy. The frames were just sitting in the boat, so I bolted those down. And then what I did is I put some hinges on these seats so you can access the little cubby area under there. Mounted my fire extinguisher, got a spare alternator belt, my emergency emergency propulsion device. Got the float whistle. I installed an engine kill switch just in case things get a little rowdy. Did the same thing over here. Oh, I'm supposed to have a little monkey fist, so that way when you're about 5 bush lattes in, you don't rip the seat off trying to pull the other end. Vintage radio with an 8-track player. That doesn't work. I don't know if the fuel gauge is accurate, but it does function. The temperature gauge works, the oil pressure gauge works, the amp meter works, and the tach works. So those are all Stuart Warner instruments. The jump seats, I had to put those back in. This piece of floor was rotted out. So I just cut a piece of 3/4 inch plywood and stuck it in there for now. I didn't epoxy coat it or anything because I just wanted to test this boat basically before I invested a lot of time and money into it, like making it just right. I do have the hatch for it, but I don't have a bilge fan. So at this point in time, I'm just gonna run an open engine to mitigate that risk of explosion without a bilge fan. And let's see, that is about it. Tomorrow's gonna be the Maiden Voyage. We're gonna give this thing a whirl tomorrow and see how it does, so stay tuned. All right, so it's the next day. We're getting ready to gas this thing up and drop it over at Woods Reservoir. We're gonna take this thing for a little spin, see how she does. Just a few things. I got the jet drive hooked back up. I got my bumpers tied on. Got the boat vacuumed out and hooked up. Trailer lights work now. It was my truck that was messed up, and there you go. This thing made me run. So when running something with a carburetor, especially since I don't know what kind of engine components are in that boat, like how aggressive everything is, I stopped here because they have 100% gas and premium.